The ballroom glittered with golden chandeliers and soft violin music. The kind of place where people carried themselves with pride. I had been nervous about coming, but my wife insisted. "It's family," she said. "You should be there." So I went. I put on my best suit, polished my shoes, even ironed my shirt twice. I wanted to belong, or at least not look out of place among her relatives, who never truly accepted me. But the moment I stepped in, I felt it. The stares, the whispers, the quiet smirks passed between cousins and uncles. My wife's family had money, reputation, legacy. Me, I had none of those things. When I approached the welcome table, a young woman handed me my name tag. I froze. The black marker letters were clear. Housekeeper. My hands trembled. "There's a mistake," I said softly. The girl giggled nervously and pointed toward my wife's mother. She told me to write it. Across the room, my mother-in-law lifted her champagne glass and smirked at me. "You're just a servant here," she mouthed. I swallowed the burn in my throat. My wife walked up beside me, glanced at the tag, and instead of protesting, she laughed. A sharp, careless giggle. "Oh, lighten up. It's funny. You help around the house, don't you?" The laughter cut me deeper than any insult. I tried to keep my composure, telling myself to endure for the sake of peace. But the humiliation only grew worse. Dinner was served on long tables covered in white silk, platters of food that smelled like heaven. Guests found their seats. I looked for my name card and found nothing. I asked my wife quietly, "Where am I sitting?" She waved dismissively. "Nowhere. Food is for real family. Just mingle." I stared at her, praying it was a cruel joke. But she was already sipping her wine, her shoulders shaking with laughter as her sister whispered something in her ear. The final crack inside me snapped. I stood up, slowly, deliberately. The hall seemed to fall silent for me alone. My chest tightened as I pulled the ring from my finger. I placed it on the table in front of her. Her laughter stopped. She looked at me with wide eyes. "What are you doing?" But I didn't answer. I turned and walked out of that glittering prison, leaving behind the weight of marriage that had already died long before that night. Outside, the cold air stung my face, yet it felt more merciful than the warmth of that room. I drove aimlessly until the neon lights of a bar pulled me in. I wasn't a man who drank much, but that night I needed something, anything, to numb the ache. I sat at the counter, my glass untouched, my head heavy with shame. That's when I noticed her. She sat a few stools down, dressed simply but elegantly, not overdressed like the crowd I had just left. She had eyes that seemed to see too much, as if she understood pain intimately. "You look like hell," she said gently. I let out a broken laugh. "I feel worse." She slid her glass toward me. "Then drink mine. It's only soda." I looked at her, surprised. No pity in her voice, no judgment, just calm sincerity. For the first time that night, I didn't feel invisible. Her name was Elena. She wasn't perfect, but she listened. For hours, I talked. Things I'd buried for years spilled out. How my wife treated me more like an obligation than a partner. How her family's disdain had worn me thin. How I had sacrificed quietly, hoping one day to be enough. Elena didn't interrupt. She touched my hand once, briefly, a simple gesture that nearly shattered me. The warmth of it contrasted so sharply with the cold rejection I had endured. We met again, first by accident, then by choice. Each meeting felt like oxygen after suffocation. I knew it was dangerous, knew I was stepping onto a road that could not end well, but my heart was starving for kindness. One evening, after weeks of stolen conversations and walks beneath city lights, she asked me, "Why do you stay married to someone who treats you like you don't exist?" I had no answer. I thought of the ring I had left behind, the empty spot on my finger, and the hollow in my chest. When Elena kissed me, it wasn't wild or desperate. It was soft, patient, like a promise that I was worth something. And I broke into the arms of a woman who saw me not as a servant, not as a joke, but as a man. The guilt came later, at night. When the silence pressed heavy, I thought of vows, of broken promises, of the line I crossed. But each time I remembered the humiliation, the loneliness of that banquet hall, I told myself I had been a husband in her eyes for a long time. What Elena gave me wasn't just passion. It was dignity. She reminded me I had a right to be seen, to be loved without mockery. In the end, it wasn't the affair that destroyed my marriage. It was the truth. My wife called, demanded explanations, accused me of betrayal. But betrayal had begun long before that kiss. On the night, she laughed at me like I was nothing. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I simply told her, "You lost me when you forgot I was family, too." When the papers were signed months later, I felt strangely free. Not victorious, not vindicated, just free. Elena never asked me to love her in return, but I did, slowly and completely. With her, there were no smirks, no cruel games, no hollow laughter at my expense. Only honesty, only warmth. Sometimes I think back to that name tag, housekeeper. What was meant to humiliate me ended up setting me free. Because in that single word, I saw the truth. I had been living in someone else's house, serving a family that never wanted me. Now, I live in a home of my own making, with someone who sees me as more than enough. And that, more than anything, is the revenge I never intended but always needed.